Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the SFA apologises for the historical abuse suffered by young people in its care after a report finds major failings in child protection policies. Damages are awarded to the family of a woman who died after being exposed to asbestos by washing her husband's work clothes.
Often I can remember my mum shaking out the overalls at the back door, telling us to stay away because it was too dusty. Neither my father nor my mother had any knowledge of the danger.
Campaigners say the landmark case could lead to further claims. Also in the programme, a warning that Scotland's tap-saff culture has to change after predictions that heat-related deaths are set to treble across the UK. How science and the techniques of CSI are being used to discover if Robert Burns' manuscripts are real or fake. And Burnley fans are in confident mood as they gather for their Europa League qualifier against Aberdeen. But Don supporters say they can't be written off. Good evening. The SFA is sorry, but it didn't fail the children of Scotland over historic child sex abuse. That's the view of the Chief Executive of football's governing body. Ian Maxwell was speaking after the release of an interim report highlighting failings in Scottish football over the issue. Our senior football reporter, Chris McLaughlin, reports.
It's taken over a year to investigate and compile, and the report says the SFA's procedures are not fit for purpose. And for that reason, children remain at risk. Lessons must be learned, it says, those who failed brought to account.
I would absolutely offer a sincere apology to anybody who's been a victim of any abuse in Scottish football. And I think they should take comfort from the fact that we have undertaken the review. We commissioned it ourselves to understand the lessons from their experiences and others' experiences to equip us to be best placed moving forward.
Has the SFA in the past failed the children of Scotland?
I don't believe so. I mean, that's, as I said, the report looked at what happened previously, what lessons could be learned, and how we're going to drive the association forward. It's important that we're aware of what happened in the past and we take cognizance of what happened in the past, but from, it's important that we understand where we are in the present and where we're going as an association.
The past, though, is painful. Peter Haynes suffered years of sexual abuse at the hands of an SFA official.
The referee going over to look at the linesman. Let's have a picture of the linesman to our right. Now this conversation should certainly be interesting.
Coach and linesman Hugh Stevenson, seen here, died in 2004, evading justice. His victims can only wonder, what if? If those recommendations had been in place way back then, could it have prevented what happened to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if the SFA and the other clubs in Scotland do not act on these recommendations, it will continue to harm to other people's children.
So how many more victims are out there, and does it remain a problem?
We on the review believe that the vast majority of people who have been affected by this issue in the past have still not come forward. Why do I say that? Well, because a lot of the people who did come forward talked about their pals, or talked about people that they knew who they believed had been affected by this issue, but had never spoken or come forward about it.
This has been and will continue to be a turbulent period for Scottish football as it tries to make sense of the past and, in terms of child protection, convince the public that it has a safe future. The findings make for some grim reading. For a game that's being accused of being asleep at the wheel, it's time to wake up. For others, it's time to move on.
Rather than this being a burden, I feel as if I'm now part of, I have a legacy.
And apologies for some problems with the naming of our speakers there. Chris is outside the SFA headquarters at Hampden Forest tonight. Chris, 95 recommendations in all. What would you say are the key ones?
Well, yeah, it's a lengthy list, Sally. More money, better education, clearer lines of command, a need for greater accountability from clubs around affiliated youth clubs, but also a twist in this story this evening, Sally. Peter Haynes, who is the victim we heard from in my report earlier, was in touch with me around an hour ago to say that he was appalled and insulted beyond words by the answer given by the SFA Chief Executive Ian Maxwell when I asked him whether or not the SFA had let down, had failed the children of Scotland in the past. Now, add to that, and just in the past 10 minutes, Ian Maxwell contacted me to say, look, I've actually been in touch with Peter Haynes to clarify. I basically got the answer wrong. It's a very delicate subject, Sally, and as you can imagine, feelings are running high.
Chris McLaughlin at Hampden, thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying that issue. A family has made Scottish legal history after being awarded nearly £250,000 after their mother died from the asbestos disease mesothelioma. Adrienne Sweeney, who died 3 years ago, was exposed to asbestos at home through dust from her husband's overalls. Katrina Renton reports.
Adrienne Sweeney's husband William was a boilermaker at the Babcock and Wilcox factory in Renfrew in the 1960s and 70s. In his job, he was exposed to asbestos, and consequently, so was his family. His daughter Kay takes up the story.
We would get used to our dad coming in, and he would always be covered in dusty overalls or whatever, and he'd pick us up and throw us in the air, give us a cuddle, give my mum a cuddle. And he used to have a peg at the back kitchen door where if he didn't eat his breakfast in the morning when he was in night shift, he would peg up his overalls. And often I can remember my mum shaking out the overalls at the back door, telling us to stay away because it was too dusty, and then she would proceed to wash his overalls. She had a twin tub at that time.
This picture of Adrienne and her granddaughter and great-granddaughter was taken shortly before she passed away. She was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a particularly aggressive form of cancer, in May 2015. She died just 12 weeks later, but had already started her campaign for justice.
I think one of the things that haunted her a wee bit in the last 12 weeks of her life, she was very preoccupied and concerned about her 3 children also being contaminated with the dust. That really worried her for a long time. And I think one of the things that she was able to focus on was about getting justice for herself and for her family.
William died in 2008, making Adrienne's case difficult to prove as he was not there to provide evidence of the conditions at Babcock's. However, a former colleague came forward on his behalf. This is thought to be the first time a court in Scotland has ruled on secondary contact with asbestos as the cause of the disease. Campaigners have described this as a landmark case.
Remember, these people have a condition caused through no fault of their own. Mrs. Sweeney died through no fault of her own. These people are due recompense, but they weren't getting it. So now this judgment means that they can go forward, pursue their civil compensation and receive that due recompense.
Adrienne's fight for justice may well make a difference for others.
We can only hope as a family that it benefits other families in the future. And as I say, what a tremendous legacy for Adrienne Sweeney.
Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland, Paisley.
A 24-year-old man has appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court charged with spitting on a priest outside a church. Bradley Wallace allegedly assaulted Canon Thomas White by repeatedly spitting on him outside St Alphonsus Church as an orange walk passed his chapel in the city's Carlton area. The charge against Mr Wallace, who was released on bail pending a further hearing, says the offence was aggravated by religious prejudice. It's a traditional sight in Scotland whenever the mercury rises, but now Scots have been warned that the taps-aff culture has to change. It comes as MPs caution that heat-related deaths could treble by the middle of this century. Well, Cameron Buttle is on the meadows in Edinburgh for us. Oh, it looks lovely. Cameron, are they enjoying the sunshine?
They certainly are. No record-breaking temperatures in Scotland today, but there has been that warning from the Westminster Committee that the UK is going to be getting more heat waves, and those heat waves are going to be hotter, and that several thousand lives are potentially at risk by the year 2050 if no action is taken just now. Now, that warning is primarily aimed at the south of England, but there's also been a warning in Scotland that perhaps we also need to change our attitude to a lovely summer's day. Sun's out, so Scotland's out. Thousands packed Portobello Beach today. It may not be as hot as south of the border, but we've learned to make the most of any sunshine.
How are you enjoying the weather?
Oh, it's lovely. You wouldn't need to go abroad with weather like this, would you?
You see half the people here, they've not got sun cream on and what have you, they've not got hats on, not got sunglasses, but good luck to them.
But we need to be careful of what we wish for. There's a warning that the UK is going to get more heat waves and they're going to be hotter. A report says thousands of lives could be at risk.
The most important thing that we're concerned about is these risks to human health. The children under 5, the adults living on their own over 75, people with heart and lung conditions, kidney, diabetes and people with sickle cell anemia. These are the people that are most at risk from this extreme heat, and the messages simply aren't getting out there about what they need to do to stay safe.
Holidaymakers in Coonessy cooling off here in the Loch. Top temperatures were expected in the north today, but no signs of a heat wave in Scotland yet.
What we need for a heat wave is a period of 5 days or more with temperatures around 5 Celsius or more above the average.
If the predictions are correct and more heat waves are coming, Scotland may have to think again.
Maybe as you walk around in Glasgow, the taps aft culture might not be something we should encourage too much. As soon as the sun comes out, we wear shorts, no tops and flip-flops. We might have to reconsider that if we're going to have consistent hot weather over the next few years.
In Glasgow, where the phrase taps off was coined, the message may take some time to filter through.
We don't get a lot of sun in Scotland, so I think it's good for people to go out and enjoy themselves, you know what I mean? They get really brutal winters, so I don't really agree. I think tops off culture is good, especially in Scotland. It's quite a bleak place at times.
Barely ever get this, so why not, you know, why not enjoy it while it's here, you know?
Even without a heat wave, there was some minor disruption today, grass fires in Edinburgh and some speed restrictions affecting rail services. But for most, just a cracking day to be out in the sun. On a night like tonight, it's hard to think about the downsides, the water shortages, the sunburn, the heat waves. But if you are worried about that kind of thing, don't be. It looks like it's going to be raining by the weekend.
Thanks very much, Cameron Buttle there. There's been a massive drop in the number of people from EU countries who want to be teachers in Scotland. So far this year, just 14 people from the rest of the EU have applied for registration. Unions fear the drop will make it even harder to fill some vacancies. Our education correspondent, Jamie McIver, is here to tell us more. Jamie.
Well, Sally, EU membership means citizens of one EU country have the automatic right to live and work in all the others. But before someone can teach in a Scottish school, they have to register with teaching's governing body, the General Teaching Council for Scotland. It checks whether someone's qualifications are suitable and carries out personal background checks to make sure they can work with children. Now, the overwhelming majority of teachers either lived in Scotland anyway or come from other parts of the UK. But some from abroad, including EU nationals, have found work here. Last year, we met Jan Morawski from Germany. He's a scientist who retrained as a teacher.
You need your social skills that you don't put to use in a lab, and that was missing in my life.
Dr. Morawski trained as a teacher in Scotland, but sometimes people who qualified in other EU countries actively seek work here. In 2017, 186 people from other EU countries sought to register as teachers in Scotland. So far this year, just 14 have.
It does concern us. I think it concerns us for a number of reasons. One, we always think that anyone coming from beyond Scotland adds to diversity, and it's good for our children because we're quite outward looking as a nation, and I think that's a concern. But this drop is in the context of the vacancies that we have in Scotland just now.
The biggest teachers' union is also worried.
It'll make the current situation worse, and it'll mean issues within schools where pupils aren't able to get the right teacher at the right time if these problems continue.
Some councils, including Aberdeenshire, have a number of teachers from the EU. Indeed, they actively tried to recruit teachers in the Republic of Ireland. Many councils, though, have never proactively looked beyond Scotland. Indeed, it's never ideal to have to look outside Scotland just to fill routine classroom vacancies. But the drop in the number from the EU who want to teach here can only make solving the recruitment problem in some areas harder. Sally.
Thanks very much, Jamie. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's sort of coming up to 7:15. A reminder of tonight's top story. The SFA apologises for the historical abuse suffered by young people in its care after a major report finds failings in its child protection policies. And still to come, the unusual venue for hundreds of Scottish opera performers. You may be a fan of CSI Miami, but this is more CSI Mauchline. Scientists at Glasgow University have found an innovative way of analysing samples of Robert Burns' manuscripts to identify whether they're real or fakes without damaging the original. Aileen Clark reports.
If and kiss, and then we sever.
One of Burns' most famous love songs, the words here in this letter he wrote to Nancy McElhose to mark their parting. This precious document is part of the collection at the National Library of Scotland. But for the 6,000 genuine Burns letters, poems and songs in existence, there are thought to be thousands of forgeries. Many of those are down to this man, Alexander Smith. Based in Edinburgh, he was a notorious 19th century forger. Operating 80 years after Burns died, he passed off numerous manuscripts as original works of the bard. Could 21st century science hold the key to separating the real deal from audacious fake? More used to profiling drug or blood samples, in this lab they've been analysing ink samples, mass spectrometry, hunting for traces of Mauchline.
When we take the sample from the ink, it is passed into this mass spectrometer here, and the instrument senses the different chemicals in the makeup of this like notes in a song. And that allows us to build a pattern that we can use to look at new manuscripts or classify ones into real and faked Burns.
But before they got to that stage, they had to mix up samples of the kind of ink Burns would have made for himself in 18th century Ayrshire. No popping out to the stationers then. And his particular inks contained some interesting elements.
Burns would put things such as dripping into it, which would give the ink a certain shine. And he would also put beer into it, although we're not too sure why.
With original Burns' works being incredibly valuable and even Smith the Master Forger's work being sought after by collectors, key to this new method is when they take the actual ink samples from old paper, these fragile documents are not damaged. This development is creating much interest among Burns scholars, not least in Dumfries.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful. Of course, previously we had scholarship and provenance to establish whether a work was real. Now we have provenance and scholarship, but we also have the application of science.
Perhaps one day there may be a kind of DNA database for ink and paper to help literature detectives deduce not so much who done it, but certainly who wrote it. Aileen Clark, Reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Fascinating. Glasgow's Pavilion Theatre is to reopen for ticket sales tomorrow after being closed 4 months ago by a fire at a neighbouring nightclub on Sauchiehall Street. The pavilion suffered water damage, but staff are now back at work. The box office opens tomorrow morning and the curtain will go up again on September the 5th with a performance of Celtic the Musical. Scottish Opera are no strangers to touring, but their latest venture has taken them into new territory. The venue is a tent on a playing field in Paisley. And the cast of 200 is a mixture of professionals and amateurs from the local community. Our arts correspondent, Pauline McLean, reports.
Pagliacci is an opera about a troupe of travelling players. So where else to stage this huge community production but inside a circus tent? Welcome to Paisley Opera House. Scottish Opera has been working here for months, using local festivals as inspiration and local people in the 200-strong cast.
I think the mixture of community involvement and a big national company in a tent is a first worldwide. It's really thrilling. In the opera itself, we have around 60 community chorus, 12 professional, 14 children, 14 dancers, 70 orchestra, 5 soloists. Oh, and also we've got 14 handbell ringers.
Paisley is known for its music. Its recent bid for UK City of Culture was based on that. Even the bells are historic, over 150 years old.
This is the first time most of our group have played in a place this big to start with, and they haven't played live really in front of people apart from like the Women's Guild, so it's absolutely buzzing, and to be in our hometown of Paisley is just amazing.
Finding singers in a place full of choirs wasn't hard. The chorus come from all walks of life and believe their spectacular show will help put Paisley on the map for music.
If you go back in time and you think about Robert Tannahill and all the music hall singers and the singing that went on in Glenaford Braes, this is a place that is rich in culture, and in some ways I think it's really quite fitting that Bill has brought Pagliacci to Paisley.
And so far it seems that audiences agree. All 3 shows in coming nights already sold out. Polly McLean reporting Scotland.
Sir Alex Ferguson says he wouldn't be here today without the great care of hospital staff. The former Manchester United and Aberdeen manager was speaking for the first time after having emergency surgery in May for a brain hemorrhage. He appeared in a video message shared on social media. The 76-year-old was treated at Salford Royal Hospital in Manchester.
Believe me, without those people who gave me such great care, I would not be sitting here today. So thank you from me and my family. Thank you very much. It's made me feel so humble, as all the messages I've had from all over the world, wishing me the best, and the good wishes do resonate very, very strongly with me.
Well, it's been dubbed a Battle of Britain clash. Around 2,000 Burnley football fans have descended on Aberdeen for their match at Pittodrie tonight. The Dons are hosting the Premier League side in the Europa League second qualifying round first leg. And Rebecca Curran joins us from Pittodrie now. I think it's a sellout, isn't it, Rebecca? What's the atmosphere like?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's certainly been a buzz about the city in Aberdeen today. It's been a while since the Dons welcomed so many away fans for a European clash here at Pittodrie, but Burnley supporters started arriving in their droves yesterday. They've been out and about enjoying themselves in the streets of Aberdeen today. Police say that so far the atmosphere has been very positive, but are warning both sets of fans to be on their very best behaviour. Of course, Burnley have been waiting more than half a century for a European match. Aberdeen, a little bit more familiar, but are seen by some as the underdog. Dons boss Derek McInnes and his players, though, say they're more than capable of pulling off a victory against the Premier League side.
These Burnley fans have lots to shout about. Tonight's match against Aberdeen is the club's first European tie in 51 years.
I met someone yesterday who travelled down from Tromsø all the way from Norway to come down for the game, so you know that's what Burnley fans do, we travel wherever, so there is a lot of excitement, yeah.
Oh, I'm buzzing tonight, we're going to win 3-0. Right. Aberdeen, League One standard, Burnley, Premier League standard.
Butterflies, nervous. So it's exciting though, first time in Europe in over that long.
Pittodrie will have a full house for the Dons' Battle of Britain clash with the Clarets. Some fans have travelled thousands of miles.
From Melbourne, Australia, to come here. A friend of mine, Georgie Campbell, who used to play for Aberdeen in the 70s, he told me to come here and mention his name, and I still can't get a ticket.
Absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
Yep.
A bit nervous actually, a little bit. I'm nervous. I hope we can do Scottish football proud.
I have a good feeling, but it's my first time in Scotland ever, and an Aberdeen fan for many, many years as a child. I don't know why Aberdeen, but I was an Aberdeen fan. And yes, and today I'm here.
Some fans were disappointed the teams had drawn each other, but not all.
I think Aberdeen's a great tie for us. I was really, really pleased. And so it's true that some of our fans, I think one or two of them got passports for the first time after we're qualified, and so to come up here probably isn't what they expected.
With thousands of supporters turning out tonight, extra police are on patrol. The stakes are high, with both sets of fans hoping their team can rise to the occasion.
Of course, this isn't the only match that is happening tonight. Elsewhere, Hibernian take on Greek side Asteras Tripolis at Easter Road, while Rangers are in Croatia to take on Osijek. There will be live coverage of both of those matches on BBC Radio Scotland 810 medium wave, with the main commentary coming from right here at Pittodrie.
Rebecca Curran, thank you very much indeed. Now let's see what's happening with the weather, Judith.
All change this weekend. Thank you very much, Sally. And a very good evening to you. Well, the weather watchers have sent in some gorgeous pictures today. We've had blue skies pretty much right across the country, and indeed very warm temperatures too. We saw temperatures widely up to 27 Celsius across northern Scotland, further south, Edinburgh 27, Kirkwall we saw 20, and across Shetland 19. And it's quite cloudy there at the moment and quite muggy. I've heard that from one of our tweeters. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine on offer. Morning wave cloud drifting in across eastern Scotland with the potential for some heavy thundery showers just clipping eastern Scotland during the course of the overnight period. In the far west, we do have a weather front bringing some cloud and some rain, really right on the west coast itself. But it will feel quite muggy, particularly east where we see those showers. Temperatures here 16 Celsius, further west a wee bit lower, but still a warm, humid feel to the night. Quite breezy over Shetland, but winds light across the mainland. So a largely dry start, but we do have one or two showers across the northeast and in the Northern Isles, but they clear away fairly quickly. Still have that weather front in the west, but plenty of sunshine and those temperatures once again soaring. And in fact, for the afternoon, again, we're looking at values of 19, 20 Celsius for the Northern Isles. Staying fairly cloudy for Shetland. It should brighten up for Orkney, similarly for Caithness. A wee bit of har coming into parts of the east coast. It will come inland, values of 25, 26, maybe 27 Celsius. A little bit lower in the west, but still warm nonetheless. Good sunny spells until you reach coastal parts. Cloudier, some outbreaks of patchy rain right up the west coast into the Western Isles. And again, temperatures that wee bit cooler under the cloud. Quite breezy here as well over the Western Isles. Into tomorrow, late afternoon and evening. A number of showers feeding in across eastern Scotland, some thundery ones making their way further inland as well. Drier through the central swathe of the country, and again we have that weather front in the west. Here's the weekend weather, a big game changer. Low pressure coming our way, introducing outbreaks of rain and fresher conditions. Cloudy with bands of rain crossing the country on Saturday, and quite windy and certainly feeling that bit fresher. That's your forecast.
Thanks very much, Judith. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with a late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone in the team right across the country, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.